Well, it's in the 90s again, and there's another heat advisory. But I'm telling you, the 90-degree temperatures just haven't been that bad for us. The reason I bring up the temperature all the time, again, is because we don't have air conditioning. And I keep telling everybody, you don't need air conditioning. The chickens, they're doing okay. We haven't lost any from all the heat. They're hiding right now, the chicks are. They're hiding underneath the chloroplast here. I just brought them down some really cold water from the well. I know it's hard to see through the fencing. The chicks run right to that cold water. The young chicks, the older chickens, they don't touch it. I don't understand why. But as soon as I put the water in here for the little chicks, they just surround it instantly. You might be able to see that one of the chicks is drinking that cold water. Now the bucket there that you see is just water that's been sitting there since last night. I filled it last night. But I brought that little gallon jug down, maybe a half hour ago, and they just sucked it down. They dig holes and try to stay cool, and they pant. They're all under here, staying as cool as possible. I don't know if you can see them through the fencing like that or not. It's hard for me to see. That's my biggest concern with the heat, is making sure that the chicks and the chickens survive this. We have Brahmas, which are winter birds. They're really hardy in the winter. They have so much feathers. They're actually feathers on their feet. I've showed you this before. They struggle in the heat, so we got to make sure that we keep them cool, but they seem to be doing okay. It's a struggle. Now the other thing is that when it's really hot like this, we do get a reduction in egg production. We got 9 eggs one day, and then it turned hot. It was like in the 60s and 70s. It cooled off quite a bit for about a week last week. And so we were getting 9 eggs a day. It's quite incredible. And then it heated back up, and we got 4. I think we got 4, which was the smallest amount we've ever gotten since spring. Well, yesterday they gave us another 9. It was hot, but I think they didn't have a choice. I think they had to lay eggs. And today we're back down. I think we've gotten 6, so it's not going to be a big day today either. So it's just part of the deal. You know, you got to suffer through the heat. But now the nice thing is during the winter, we're going to get eggs from the Brahmas. That's a big deal to us. We was only getting about 4 eggs a day in the winter with the New Hampshires. I'm going to come down in the shade because, as I've said before, the sunlight really gets to my camera and selfie stick. People tell me to put a shade over it. I could, you know, some sort of shade to keep the sun off of it. I could, but it's nice to come down in the woods to get out of the sun myself. I've noticed that we've got some sort of wild predator, I would imagine. I would imagine it's a coyote or a fox is my guess. I don't know. There's a lot of seeds in there. Hard telling what it is, but I try to keep an eye on the wildlife. As you know, the other day I told you that we caught a raccoon. We've actually caught, no, we just caught 1 raccoon, and we've caught 2 possums. So I've relocated those. And yes, you can do that here in this county in the state of Missouri. There's a lot of ordinances that don't let you relocate. But I wanted to bring up the preppers again. Just saw another video today of someone talking about air conditioning as an SHTF commodity. I don't understand this, why you gotta have air conditioning. So I hear a lot of people say, I got a medical condition, so I gotta have air conditioning. Well, we're in an SHTF, that's gonna be very difficult. I mean, this guy was showing us an air conditioner, portable air conditioner with a battery and all. And he was talking anywhere from 4 to 12-hour run times. But you still got to recharge that. And in SHTF, that's going to be kind of difficult. And it's really not much different than my window air conditioner I have in the camper. His was 4,000 BTUs, and mine is 5,000 BTUs. And we were running it through the heat of the day in the camper, but it was a real strain on the batteries. In my mind, it's just easier if you can figure out a way to stay cool with a fan and staying in the shade. Right now, I'm in the shade. There was a slight breeze. I think it's died off a little bit. There was a slight breeze, and I'm quite comfortable. I sweat a little bit, and there's times like, man, wish I could cool off. But to think that you're going to have air conditioning when SHTF happens, I just don't think that's realistic. Secondly, I think there's more important things to be doing than worrying about air conditioning. I mean, if you're trying to run your solar panels so you can have air conditioning, I think it's just a really wasteful use of resources. Now, I say all this stating that you still got to have heat. And the reason you got to have heat is it's just harder to survive in the cold than it is. I mean, you can get heat sicknesses, don't get me wrong, but if you drink plenty of water and stay out of the sunlight and stop working in the sun, that's where people get sick, is when they're out there sweating and working. I came down earlier to do a little chore. I mean, a little chore, wasn't that big of a deal. And I was just pouring sweat. So you immediately go back in the house, sit down, and drink water. The thing I think a lot of people struggle with is they're uncomfortable from the sweat. But the sweat is good. That's a cooling process. You're supposed to be sweating. And I just really get frustrated when preppers, these SHTF preppers, tell you you got to have air conditioning. And here's how you do it. I got the solution to all your problems. They were asking you to spend money on things that aren't a necessity. In an economy where things are absolutely terrible. I mean, I think instead of worrying about an air conditioning right now, that you should be worried about how to raise chickens or rabbits or pigs or whatever it is you want to raise. Figure out how to get them fed in an SHTF. If you're wasting money on an air conditioner, that takes away your ability to actually survive the things you need. Food, water, shelter, and defense. Those are the 4 things you need to survive an SHTF for the rest of your life. Air conditioning isn't one of them. The other thing is so you buy this battery operated air conditioner. What happens in 4 or 5 years when it breaks? You're not going to have it anyways. When these preppers are talking about SHTF, they're not talking about a year. It's confusing to watch them. They'll say, okay, yeah, you gotta stockpile for at least a year. You need a year's worth of food. Like SHTF is going to be over at 365 days. After that, you're going to be able to go back to the store, pick up some food. Well, Venezuela, is my understanding, is still eating zoo animals. They've been, how many decades now? A couple? So no, this isn't like, a couple days. Cuba, they're still starving down there, having all kinds of issues. That's been how many decades? So no, this isn't something that's going to be something overnight that is going to just all of a sudden come back and you're fine. Then they talk about SHTF in a different light. Oh, you're gonna have an EMP. It's going to go off in the sky, and there's not going to be any electric for the rest of your life. Okay, so what's your plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to overcome that obstacle? So they're confusing. They want you to buy air conditioning, knowing dang good and well there's not going to be any electric. You're going to have solar panels. You're going to have all kinds of charging units. They didn't explain any of this. Now, what I'm suggesting, and I've always suggested, and I think it's the best solution to SHTF, or even just to get away from the governmental dictatorship that a lot of people talk about, and it's come off grid, or at least as much as possible. Be self-sustaining as much as possible. If you can do that, then the worries just fade away. Just like me, I have no worries about what's going on in the world. I'm quite comfortable. I mean, I get frustrated when I hear certain things like, well, this is my country, and I hate to see it to go by the wayside, but if it does, it does. I mean, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing I can do about it, but I can't control what happens in my life. So once again, I'm going to tell you, buy yourself a piece of property, sell everything you got, everything. I said, sell your car, sell your junk car. Oh, you can't sell a junk car. It's better to have a new car and pay payments because they're more reliable. Well, what are you going to do when the bank comes and take it because you can't afford it because you have payments? Get yourself an old junker. My truck is 7 years old now. I paid it off within a year, maybe 2. So I can consider it an old junker. Of course, it's reliable, but it's paid off. Anybody else has waited too long. We're going into a recession. You don't want to have debt in a recession. Sell your car, get rid of that payment, get yourself a junker that's somewhat reliable, even if you got to put money into it to fix it up. It's still cheaper than paying the payment on the car. So you have a $20,000 or $30,000 car that you're paying payments on for 5 years, or you pay $1,000 on a junker, you put another $1,000 on it, and it lasts 5-10 years. Look at all the money you've saved. Having debt has never made sense to me, especially for something like a car, because you're never going to get the value out of it. So sell the car, sell the house, Get as much money out of it as you can. Get yourself $15,000 out of all the stuff you sold. Get yourself a piece of property. You can find them. Carolyn was just telling me one down the road about 12 miles. A little higher than I would have liked, but she said it's got a well and a piece of property you can park your camper on, or put a little Home Depot shed on it. I just threw that one out because she just found it last night. Like I said, it's a little higher than I thought she should have to pay, but it was closer to town, so that might have raised the price a little bit. We're further away from town. The point of that is the further away you get from town, the more isolated you are, the more self-sustaining you can be. You're not relying on the town to take care of you. The other thing is you got to stop worrying about people. The reason I feel like we're so successful is because we do everything ourselves. I said this a few days ago, and somebody actually emailed me saying, I don't believe you, but we built a tiny house. I built a tiny house by myself. And if you don't believe me, you can go to my playlist, look at tiny house build, and you'll see all the videos where I built the tiny house by myself. But I did build it by myself. Carolyn helped me lift one wall, and I thought, man, that was stupid. I should have done it by myself. I could do it by myself. She was just there and said, hey, you want to help me? And she helped me lift it up. That's it. She helped me lift the wall. And then she helped me put a shower together. Those plastic showers you can buy, those things are a terrible thing to put together, man. But if I start asking people for help, then you got two problems. One, I've noticed that people are not reliable. All my life I've noticed this. Now I realize I have a disorder that requires me to be punctual. If I say I'm going to do something, I got to do it. If I say I'm going to be somewhere at this time, I got to be there before that time. I've always been that way. But I've noticed that most everybody that I've crossed paths with in my life are not that way. They're not punctual at all. And so you'll say, okay, be here at 7 o'clock in the morning and we'll lift this wall up. And they show up at 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And they don't even make an excuse. Oh, you know, I got drunk last night. And that's about it. Now you've wasted your day waiting on this person to help you lift the wall up when you could have just figured out a way to lift it up yourself the night before. Oh, maybe I'll use a strap or a pulley here or there and I can lift it up on my own. I really encourage you to really take this seriously. Get away from the system. So if you'll click that super thanks button down there, I really appreciate it. So if I can inspire you to get away from it so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.